I know exactly where it is. Does anybody? He ain't at Officer Doss's house. He ain't a member of the family anymore, is he?
Now here comes the defendant in front of the state, the court. What's my next motion? A motion in limine to restrict or deny the reciprocal discovery, video evidence, evidence of character, traits of the defendant, and to discard Deputy Davis's affidavit as evidence in this case. What I'm asking them is throw out all their evidence. And here's why. This is great. The defendant is asking this court to compel the state to give to Mr. Ballin any and all unredacted and unedited body-worn camera footage, notes, statements given or taken, text messages, phone calls, logs, and chat logs from Lieutenant Talking and Davis Elbon from December 15, 2022, between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. Rule 106, remainder or related writings or record statements. If any party introduces all or part of the writings or recorded statements, an adverse party may request the introduction at that time of any other part or other writings or recorded statements that, in fairness, ought to be considered at the same time. At the top of Deputy Davis's sworn affidavit, Deputy Davis referred to the defendant as such. Matthew identifies himself as an investigative journalist, in parentheses, and currently maintains an online YouTube personality called the Underground Auditor. As part of Matthew's investigation, he travels to different communities and audits, in quotations, the local government and law enforcement there. As part of these audits, Matthew regularly creates loud disturbances while filming the ensuing interaction with law enforcement. To this end, Matthew has previously engaged in loud and boisterous behavior on government property within the city of Elkins and had several confrontations with law enforcement, which have been initiated by Matthew Ballin. This sworn statement by Deputy Davis is patently false on its face due to no crimes were committed, no criminal charges by law enforcement on the defendant for his lawful right to walk and film on public land. This sworn affidavit, was obviously written to prejudice the jury's perception of the defendant's character for not, emphasis added, committing a crime at other government locations, in quotations, thereby prejudicing this court and jury with subjective propaganda by Deputy Davis that has nothing to do with this case. Boom! Randy.
I love it.
Randy.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this guy? The defendant asked this court to ignore this sworn affidavit as fictitious dribble dreamed up by rogue government agents to pull this court into probable cause warrants based on assumed and subjective subject matter in the affidavit. The subjective assumptions abound in his sworn affidavit, i.e., the defendant films at publicly funded government buildings. The defendant films in many locations for many reasons. Tugger's Bunkle is a variety show on the defendant's YouTube channel that is entertainment, news, fantasy, game show, and a review of current SCOTUS and circuit court rulings in his law library, in quotations, all rolled into one. Auditing is a small part, emphasis added, of the overall news and entertainment portion of the channel. Deputy Davis cherry-picked a small fraction of time the defendant is on air to imply ulterior motives in lieu of a true willful intent to interrupt by the defendant. The crime has got to be, by definition, a willful act with intent according to the code. While in the hallway, Deputy Davis obviously had difficulty hearing the defendant asking questions of him due to the fact that 12 times, emphasis added, Deputy Davis cupped his ears and or turned his head, leaning into the defendant, saying things such as, huh? What'd you say? And I can't hear you. Maybe this handicap played a major role in Deputy Davis's distorted view of what he heard and witnessed in 4.5 minutes. then to write it down in a sworn affidavit form to present as evidence for arrest to Magistrate Harper. The affidavit must be eliminated as evidence because it was written by a deaf mute deputy who hardly qualifies for such a serious task. What you think about that?
Deaf mute.
Come on. Come on. Give me a thumbs up on that one, man.
You do. You get a thumbs up on that.
Nobody's giving me a thumbs up out there.
Let's.
After that hearing, guess what happened? Did the judge give me that motion?
Well, keeping with prior consistency, I would say no.
In order to file all these brilliant motions, I had to have help from you. You people. You people really got me short. You people critique me. You criticize me. You do everything in your power to help me out. And I appreciate it. And Raging Cajun Randy's been there a lot. Ellie has been there a lot. She was here earlier. I don't know if she's still here now. Anybody, give me their thought on whether they think that an Esquire would write motions like that.
No, they probably wouldn't. They probably wouldn't want to be. Well, they wouldn't. You got a little bit of gotcha in your motions, whereas they probably would take it a little easier.
Well, why would they do that? Would they be in fear that the judge?
Oh, they would write it a different way, maybe, I guess.
Well, do you think that they would do it because they have to work with the judge the next case?
That too. They got to work with all the prosecutors, the other lawyers, the judges, all that shit.
They have to meet.
Got to depose cops. They got to get cops to be keep cops honest with them. You know.
Yes, Howard Clegg, I dressed them down in a motion. But see, they're not frivolous motions. They're backed by.
No, I didn't say they were frivolous. I just said they had a little bit of gotcha in them.
No. Howard Clegg said that I dressed them down, and yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes them sharp is rules.
Oh, yeah.
You have to include the code and the rules in your motions. And then you get to put in whatever you want. You're advocating for your defendant, for your client, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
They're allowed to write all kind of shit about you. You're allowed to do it too.
Yep.
It just so happens that my shit's true, and they know it. And it cuts them like a fucking knife.
Yeah, but that Couillon judge, she ain't worried about getting overturned by no. Not that she shouldn't. I'm saying she's not worried about getting overturned by appellate court. Don't bother her, in other words.
Yeah,
she's locked in down there with a whole little family tree that goes straight up down there.
Yeah, Howard Clegg said the mute deaf part was special. And this is what scared the piss out of them. After all these motions, after all these things, here's what I started to do. Okay. First off, I read the witness statements. Do you want to read the witness statements with me? Now, you remember the meeting, right?
Yes.
Well,
yep.
These are the witness statements, and this is what Lecter had to go on. Here is David Kessling. During the commission meeting, Matthew Ballin spoke at the public comment. He repeatedly called Deputy Notch as nuts. And it's hilarious. I keep on getting them to repeat it, man.
Yeah, but how did that guy know that you didn't spell it Knutts?
That's right. It's Knuts, you stupid idiot. Knuttz.
Knuts.
The K is silent, asshole.
I know why he's assuming that it didn't have a K. That's what I'm saying. Just like the NOT has got a.
I think it's funny that he keeps on calling them nuts. And Sheriff Elbon as Bobby Elbon. He got Bobby right, i.e., it's a female. I tried to correct him to properly say their names, but he continued. He stated false facts and misleading information. I allowed him time to speak, and when he finished, he went outside the back doorway.
English is my second language, but I think I know enough English to know that there's no such thing as a false fact. It's got to be one or the other, right? It can't be both.
You're right.
So they got a moron saying you got false facts.
Right.
I mean, isn't that what you call an oxymoron?
It is.
Yeah, but this is the witness saying false facts.
Right.
Idiot.
I allowed him time to speak, and he finished, went out back door, blah, 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 and you're interrupting me. The sheriff got up and closed one of the doors. The other three doors remained open. He then continued to walk the outside corridor of the meeting, talking loudly, interrupting the meeting, sticking his head in an iPad in the door right beside where the commissioners sit. It was not until Deputy Talkington put a stop to his interruption that we were able to continue the meeting. Oh, David, you're such a fucking moron. Well, let's look at the other one, huh? Maybe he saw something different. Chris Seiler, the other commissioner, what do you have to say about this whole thing? Statement of Randolph County Commissioner Christopher Seiler. This is the meathead that's a state trooper on the board, the commission, and he's the one that said, go arrest him. That's when Talkington said, no, I'll go get an arrest warrant. On the above date, between 1330 and 1400 hours, Matthew Ballin spoke during the public portion of the meeting. His behavior during this was belligerent and disrespectful. Once he was finished, he sat down for a few minutes while we moved on with the meeting. Community Corrections Director Erin Golden speak and give a report. While she was speaking, Mr. Ballin stood up and disrupted the meeting as he exited the meeting room. Once in the hallway of the James Kane building, Mr. Ballin continued to cause disturbance of the commission meeting as he walked by each of the entrances, videotaping as he walked around the building. He was heard in the commissioner meeting room as he spoke in a loud, boisterous tone. Boy, they all got that loud, boisterous thing down pat. When confronted by the deputies in the building, he became louder, and this interrupted the meeting due to not being able to be heard over Mr. Ballin. His actions caused the people attending the meeting, the droves of the public that attended the meeting, to watch the incident going on between Mr. Ballin and the deputies rather than pay attention to the meeting. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm missing something here. Is there anybody in that room?
I've been investigating. I found this article.
That's
I'd
a
like to read to
government
you guys.
worker. That's a
If I
government
may.
worker. That's a government
This is
worker.
the
That's a government
Inter-Mountaineer
worker.
newspaper.
That's a government worker. That's a government worker.
Inter-Mountaineer
That's
newspaper,
a
paper of the
government
people.
worker. Oh,
Written
that's
by staff writer
Kelly the
Eborn
Belly.
Kelly.
that's Kelly
The
the
article
Belly.
reads, the Randolph County
Is there
Commissioners
anybody
signed a
else in public
proclamation
in
on
this
Thursday
meeting?
during its regular meeting for
Richard,
October 28, 2022.
does it comport with this eyewitness's statement that he caused the people in attending the meeting acting like there's the public there? This caused the meeting to be disrupted at least twice as Commissioner Kelsing stopped to advise Mr. Ballin that he was disrupting the meeting. I made the comment that the deputies should go ahead and arrest Mr. Ballin for disrupting a government process. Nothing about calling me a fucking idiot, right? Nothing about calling me a fucking idiot. Hold on.
All right, so the next one is consider approval.
Nothing about that. And then he finally removed me from the building. Talkington did. I was finally removed from the building. Was I removed or was I asked to leave? All great questions that could be asked on the stand, right? I wasn't delivered out of that building. I wasn't trespassed. Commissioner, was I trespassed? But all good questions on cross-examination or direct, because pretty soon you'll see what I did that drove them to the brink. Erin Golden, here is Erin Golden. Yes, she likes to write a book. Blah, blah, around the part of the meeting, blah, blah. At 1:30, the meeting started. And after the prayer, Pledge of Allegiance came, Richard Tobias spoke, blah, blah, blah. This individual started to speak about the article he saw in the Inter-Mountaineer. He then began referring about Deputy Nuts, but referred to him as Deputy Nuts. I love getting these people to see it. It's so funny. Then spoke about hacker knots, but referred to him as hacker nuts. At this time, Sheriff Elbon corrected him that their names were not. The individual did not respond and continued to refer the as not. He also then referred to Sheriff Elbon as Sheriff Elbon. He then talked about the commissioner meeting that Hacker was retired and that it was held in the Candy F. Kane courthouse. Yes, that's what I said, Candy F. Kane. He continued to read the article, but it revised it to say that the commission was sorry that Deputy Nuts endangered your life and caused this injury to you, and that you will not be missed because we spent another $30,000 on another female attack dog, unquote. He continued to make a narrative of his own and false information. He stated that the last statement from Deputy Nuts was that he will be eating the best of table scraps and laying on the couch licking his nuts. I love it. I see his nuts on the brain. I said balls. I said balls, little squeaky things that the dogs play with for the rest of his life. This is not correct. I was at the meeting and that was not said. He constantly referred to Deputy Nuts to Sheriff Elbon as his son-in-law. Deputy Nuts' wife is not the sheriff's daughter. I didn't know that, but now I do. Thanks. After being corrected again by Commissioner Kelsing that it is Deputy Nuts and Sheriff Elbon, Ballin stated that this is his time and he will reclaim his time. Commissioner Kelsing stated that you can reclaim your time, but I am asking you to say Nuts. Ballin stated, this is my article that I wrote. Sheriff Elbon was covering for his son-in-law with the accident to protect his daughter. Sheriff Elbon stated that he had no daughters married. Ballin continued to refer to him as Nuts. That's so funny. Commissioner Kelsing stated that was enough. You have 1 minute. Ballin continued to say that Sheriff Elbon has spent money. He then referred to the commission giving him money for the city of Elkins. Commissioner Kelsing stated that Randolph County is not the city of the city, it's the county. Ballin then stated that the sheriff used money for compliance and that the commission laughed when the sheriff talked about attacking dogs and that Hacker was abused and completely destroyed in a year. Does anybody know where Hacker is? And he is not at Deputy Nuts' house. He knew where he was. Ballin then sat down. The meeting continued with their approval of minutes and then reports. The sheriff had nothing to report. I was then asked to get up to give a report, and I was speaking. Ballin, I noticed, was still recording, but he eventually got up and said to the room while I was speaking on his way out, quote, "See you later. Thank you." I had to stop talking. When he got out of the room, he began to make a scene in the hallway, and it was very difficult for me to give a report, for I couldn't even hear myself speak and concentrate on what I needed to say. At that point, Sheriff Elbon got up on his crutches and went to the door to shut it, and words were exchanged. He came back in to sit in his chair and finish my report. I heard the commotion moving around the outer of the commission room. He then moved to the other door in the back of the commissioner meeting room. At one point, as the meeting continued, I saw him in the open door behind Brooke, the camera woman, which was across from the commissioner's office. He continued to videotape. At that time, there was a conversation with Lieutenant Talkington. Bellin then moved to the other door on the backside behind Brenda out in the hallway. At this time, Lieutenant Talkington informed Ballin that he was interfering with government process and that he needed to either shut up or leave. At that time, Sheriff Elbon got up and headed to the door. Ballin stated that he was not creating a disturbance. I said, I'm leaving to not cause a disturbance. Ballin stated that he was not creating a disturbance. At that time, Commissioner Kelsing said, "You are. We are trying to conduct a meeting. We can't get this meeting done." At that point, there was no more discussion in the hallway, and Ballin, I believe, left the building. Elvis has just left the building. There were two more people in that room. And looky here. I'm going to do it this way, just for your convenience. The two security guards, Tiny and his father. Remember them? Do you see Tiny?
The two
And here's his
security-
papa.
Yep.
Okay, you say, well, holy shit, the man is a fucking giant, right? How
He
did
did.
that man have that size of a son? And I'll tell you why. Because his daddy is married to a Sasquatch woman up in the hills. It's her genes that made him so large. Mama is a Sasquatch. Look at him. Look at him. He looks pretty happy, doesn't he? Tiny looks happy, even though he takes up the whole entire door frame. Tiny and his father gave witness statements too. And looky here. Okay. Court Security Officer Kaylin Ketterman, Court Security Officer Kenny Watson was at the James Cain Courthouse providing security coverage during the meeting. Mr. Ballin was called up to public comment. During his comment, he used vulgar and obscene language. During his comment, he used obscene and vulgar language.
Oh, what? I didn't hear none of that.
He was also wearing an obscene t-shirt. Displaying the singer Johnny Cash flipping off. The singer Johnny Cash flipping off. He would continue to misuse Deputy Tyler Knotts and Sheriff Elbon's name. He would continue to misuse Taylor Knotts and Sheriff Elbon's name. He would call them Deputy Knotts, Deputy Nuts. He would call them Deputy Knotts, Deputy Nuts. And he would also refer to a retired hacker as Hacker Nuts. He would also refer to, wait, is anybody seeing any similarity here?
I don't see where it's a crime calling misspoken somebody's name. How's that a crime?
Wait, notice the name. They're the same document, different names.
Oh, I see what you're talking. Little
They're identical.
collusion.
They're identical. How could two people sign a different affidavit? Do you see it?
Yep.
It's identical. So these guys are mind readers. Not only they are daddy and son, they're mind readers.
Collaborators.
They're communicating via telekinetics right now.
We brought in 16,000.
Both of these guys gave the exact same statement and they signed it. Did he write his first or did he write his first and he copied off of him or he copied off of him? I don't understand. How can you have the same documents? How can that one be the identical of that one?
It's called a photocopy.
Is that a photocopy?
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Bobby probably wrote it. You think Bobby wrote that?
I don't know. Bobby's got the brains to write that, but
Somebody wrote it for him.
somebody wrote it. By the way, I hope they all tuned in watching this right now.
Oh, they are. Hello, Lecta. I love you, Lecta. And I know you love me too. Let's continue. And this right here is what I did. This is what scared the shit out of me. This is at the Philippi Police Department. What am I doing at the Philippi Police Department?
Hi, I have a Freedom of Information Act request for the Police Department.
Audit them.
Hold on a minute. It's coming. Hold on a second. I'll get them right in plain view.
What particular event are you looking for?
I want any information about Canine Hacker. Canine Hacker was received by Lieutenant Kell. So there has to be some information on how he received Canine Hacker.
I was gonna say, I wasn't making the correlation because I was gonna say, Hacker wasn't with us.
Right, but he was
Whoa,
retired,
whoa.
and then he was given to Lieutenant Kell. I want the information pertaining to the transfer of that canine. There should be paperwork.
I wouldn't know where to find it because Hale's the K-9 guy.
Well, you could ask him if he has any records of the transfer. There has to be some form of record. It is, first off, it's an attack dog, so you just don't, there's procedures that you go by in order to dispose of an attack dog. Most of them are destroyed after 5 to 7 years. If they don't go with their handler.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Lieutenant
Lieutenant Kale and I have talked about K9 and we've talked
You
extensively.
got a copy of this?
I have a copy of that.
Okay, I'll put it on his desk. I'm thinking he should be back to work tomorrow.
Whenever. I think it's 7 days or 10 days to respond.
Okay.
All right.
All right, sir.
All right. Thank you.